guys, what's good, Angel Knots? It's your boy Young Sinai.
Angel Knot.
All right, so this is gaming in your 30s and what changes. Oh boy, I am 38, so I already know this finna hit home. Oh yeah. Let me give a shout out to the channel. So this video is by Radical Dreamer Steve. All right, let's go.
Hey, welcome back. Today I have a special topic I thought would be pretty fascinating to cover. It's going to be talking about gaming and more specifically playing longer games like RPGs in your 30s.
Oh my
I think with
god.
video games,
Oh my gosh. I didn't know it was going that way specifically. It is so hard to play long games in my 30s, especially RPGs. I'm trying to get through Chrono Trigger, which I haven't beat. Okay. Go ahead and destroy me in the comments. And Earthbound, which I've never beat. Destroy me in the comments. I didn't have them games when I was kids. You know what I mean? Then you grow up and learn, oh, those are the classics. So, like, I've been playing Chrono Trigger on my 3DS, right? And I'm not lying. I started playing like it. I took a break for like a year. I don't know what's going on in that game. I feel like I'm gonna have to start over, but I'm so far. I don't want to start over. It's a lot in your 30s for real. Hold up.
we come to a really interesting period of time. They're no longer that newfangled technology that people are kind of oblivious of, but they haven't really been around long enough for older people, especially like middle-aged people and on, to have grown up and played their entire lives with them. How do RPGs and longer games fit into your life in your 30s? As a 34-year-old, I really want to share my insight and what I'm kind of seeing from the people
Oh, 34, you a young buck. You ain't old yet.
around me, both older and around the same age. Now, if you're like me, you probably have memories of like staying up all night playing video games with your best friend when you were a kid or a teenager. For me, it was N64 with friends, tons of Diddy Kong Racing, tons of Mario Party, some Mario Kart, and a lot of PS1 and PS2 RPGs by myself. Yes, I pretty much played the entire PS1 RPG library. I spent many nights by myself, or sometimes even with my best friend, playing a lot of these RPGs. Once you get into your 20s, life definitely gets hectic. Maybe you're going to school, maybe you're working, you probably don't have a ton of money, if you're anything like me anyway, but you're still kind of in that target age group for video games. It isn't really weird to be a gamer. You're still a cool kid. What about your 30s? Does it still kind of feel like you're in the club? For me, I'd say it mostly feels natural. There's a little bit of a wearing off, and we're going to discuss that here, but it mostly feels natural. I think luckily for people under about 40 years old, that's like very give or take a few years, and depending on where you grew up and kind of like what your family was like. But generally speaking, for people under 40 years old, I think video games have been a mostly accepted part of society. Like if you're 20, 30, 40, you probably can't remember a time when video games.
Yeah, games for this demographic, it's like not weird. It's not really looked at like, you're a loser for playing games. It's pretty much the norm at this point.
Weren't a part of home.
Some people have that. They push that like, red pill guys, they push, stop playing video games, you're a loser, or some women don't, see why guys play video games, but then there's a lot of women who are gamers, so
Entertainment. But if you're like 60, 70, you probably can. So I think they've gotten a little less stigmatized over time. I say this because I have multiple friends in my 40s, and a few of these people have told me that they faced a fair bit of stigma, especially when it comes to dating women. Like when they're in their 40s. I guess this would have been like 10 years ago, so they would have been in their 30s, but different time period, right? 10, 15 years ago. So they had a little bit of trouble, saying that they like video games, that they bought video games, or especially that they played a fair amount of video games, pretty much could be a red flag and a deal breaker for some of them. Now, of course, this isn't everybody. This is a very small sample size.
Which is so crazy because if, a guy said, yo, I love watching sports. Okay, well, that's normal, right? And what's the difference? They're not playing the sport, right? They're not being athletic or anything, but they're both two guys sitting on the couch, but one guy is actually mentally stimulated in the sense of he's playing the game. He's like actually playing the game. He's not just watching the game, he's playing the game. And I'm not trying to put video games on like this pedestal over watching sports or anything, but I'm just saying it's very hypocritical and ironic that they wouldn't see any big deal with a guy just watching football.
But I haven't really experienced this in my time, and I don't really know anyone around my age that has. So I definitely think there's kind of a cultural divide here. That's pretty interesting. Now it's like, as long as you're not diehard and too crazy about it, you could definitely play video games in your 30s and your wife or
Man, I thank God my wife don't care I play video games. Yo, as long as I'm, doing what I need to be doing around here, she does not care. Thank God.
husbands or girlfriend and boyfriend or other people in your life. I don't know who they might be. Those people are probably going to be more accepting as long as you kind of play and manage to control your life. So is it still cool? It definitely is, as long as you manage your life. Like, I definitely know people that were playing 12 hours a day, could not manage it, and I'm sure that would be pretty much impossible to date anyone if you're in that boat. But as long as you manage it, keep your professional life working, save money, definitely can be a very healthy part of your life in your 30s. So life in your 30s does look a little bit different. There's definitely a bigger focus on career for a lot of people. They've gone to college or they finished high school. They've done the entry-level jobs. Maybe they're now working up the ladder a little bit. You might also be starting a family. That could mean getting married or having kids. And you probably have a lot to think about when it comes to how to spend your money and your time. If you're lucky, you're at a point where you basically have the money to buy what you wanted as a kid. You could probably buy a game a month and it's not.
And that's a problem. That's a problem. Because when you're a kid, you do not have the budget. But then when you're older, Lord willing, you have the budget and you're like, what up? You look at all your games, you're like, what have I done?
Not going to be something that's going to break the bank. But at the same time, now you don't have time to play it. That's kind of the truth. So I didn't realize how lucky I was as a kid, just being able to play like Pokemon Blue for like hours and hours on end for weeks and months and years.
As a kid, playing video games and going to school, and doing your chores is like your job.
Years and playing Suikoden 2, like literally being a completionist with like some of the RPGs and games I used to absolutely love. Like, I'm never a completionist with games now. I just don't have the time. So just being able to replay a lot of my favorite games was something that's not something I'm able to do now very often. So absolute treasure that I really miss. But when it comes to RPGs specifically, they take a lot of time. And there's just so many of them.
Good,
now.
Jill.
When I think about this, back in the day when you had a console, it meant you had a very special selection of games. Like going back to like the PS1. If you had a PS1, you had a lot of RPGs to choose from, but you were definitely missing some of the others that were on like the Sega Saturn, the Sega Dreamcast, the N64, and yada yada. Whatever console you chose, you had a slim selection of games. Compare that to now, or if you have something like a PS5, you have so many of the games that are also on the Switch, are also on the Xbox, or also on the PC. The libraries have gotten absolutely staggeringly large. I mean, dude, even as a kid, I don't think I could actually play all the RPGs available on the PS4 or the Switch. It's just not possible. You need to choose much more carefully than you used to, especially when you're older. So while I got to play pretty much every PS1 RPG known to mankind, and I'm serious, I mean, throw me an RPG in the comments below if you want. I'm sure I played it. But now I've really not even scratched the surface with what's on the PS4 and 5 and the Switch.
Oh yeah, I know you never heard of this game called Final Fantasy.
time to play, and you really need to choose carefully. Like, I definitely play like a couple of the really acclaimed games. Like, I got to Persona 5. I'm really, really glad I beat that a few years ago. Play some of my favorite remasters and stuff. Like, I'm really looking forward to Front Mission First when that comes out. Got to play Final Fantasy IX again and do some of the side quests I couldn't complete as a kid, so I get around to playing RPGs, but I choose them very carefully. There's a lot of them that I start, play a few hours, and just say, hey, I don't really think I can prioritize this as much as I want.
I feel like that with like all games, right? Like I'll get a game and I'll start it and it'll be going really good, and then life will kick in, and then I'll switch to a different game. I don't e To be honest, I don't even really remember the last game that I beat. I think, oh no, I do. The last game I beat was Rocky Rodent on the Super Nintendo with my daughter. We played it on an emulator.
The other factor is definitely time. There might still be a fair amount of time to play. I mean, yeah, you need to work and you need to sleep, but you do still have some extra time. However, you might be advancing your education, working extra hours, working on side projects, have a family to take care of. Life isn't going to treat you very well if you negate most of that stuff and just spend time playing games. That's just the reality of it. I wish I could play more. I'm sure you do too, but the reality of it is you have to live life and take care of things in adults. Yes. One of the biggest things I'm starting to hear from more and more of my friends in my age group, which is generally like 30 to 35, that's where a lot of my friends sit now, they are either cutting back their gaming time or eliminating it completely. Some friends are cutting it back to save time for other stuff. Some of them just can't control their gaming time and they're getting to the point in their life where they want to do other things or just don't think it's healthy to be playing video games for like 6 hours a day. I definitely have to admit that this feels kind of like a conundrum to me as well. I think this is an existential part of consuming media, and that can be TV shows and movies as well. You know, I don't make games, I don't develop them. I'm not necessarily in the gaming world. Like, yes, I've written for a few websites, but you know, I don't work for a specific gaming company or anything. So for me, I just really love the hobby and getting to experience these amazing games and stories.
So as far as spending 6 hours a day playing video games, one, I don't even know how that's realistic if you have kids, unless they're like at school or something. But the thing that's really cool about games is that you can listen to something like an audio book, an audio Bible, YouTube video, a podcast while you play a video game, right? So I like doing that because I have ADHD, so it gives my brain something to focus on, like while I'm playing the game. So it doesn't have to just be completely, that's all you're doing, that's all you're focused on. I mean, it really depends on the type of game that you play, but I just like to put that out there because people always put out how video games such a waste of time, but you could be being productive while you're playing a game. Or you don't have to sit there and play 6 hours straight, right? That's why there's a pause button. You can play, pause the game, get up, clean, come back to the game. So it's different ways to slice it. Also, that's why I feel like handhelds are like God's gift to adult video gamers, right? Because let's say my kids got a doctor's appointment. Let's say I got to go take care of some business. Let's say I got to go to the DMV or do some boring crap. I can always bring my handheld and just pull it out and get a few minutes in, and that accumulates.
So that's part of the reason why I made this channel, is really to feel like I could give something back to the community rather than just consume. And that's not an attack. Like, if you're someone that's like, I just want to play games an hour a day, I totally respect that. In some ways, I wish I could too, and maybe I will eventually.
Yo, Link making me nervous. I feel like he gonna fall off.
And yeah, this channel is really just a labor of love for me. So if it ever grows into a really big channel, really awesome. But if it doesn't, then, maybe I'll just eventually go back to just playing casually. Because I also love hiking, I study Chinese, I have a wife, so that only leaves me so much time to game, and how the hell can I play RPGs with what's left?
Oh man, he said he got a wife, man. I don't know if he plan on having kids or not, but it's gonna get harder, brother. That's why you gotta raise your kids to love video games. You feel me? That's the hack.
I am a chronic person who likes to ask like how long games are. There's that website, howlongtobeat.com. Use that religiously. But I also will Google it too. And so I'll go on forums and see a bunch of people.
I can never use that website, How Long to Beat, because I love games, but I'm not the best at games. So if it says 62 hours, it's like, okay, we'll double it because I'm probably going to get lost at some point.
Playing a game, it's like maybe 30, 40 hours. Final Fantasy VII Remake's a good example. That was around that time limit. And I'll be like, hey, how long does it take to beat this? And people will be like, yeah, I beat that in 5 days. Won't take you long. And I'm like, oh, damn you. Damn you. I'm so jealous. I will never beat a 30-hour game in 5 days, not unless someone pays me to do it. So yeah, in your 30s, unless you're very, very lucky, games are going to take you longer, even short games. Like I was playing Resident Evil 2, I just made a video last week, definitely check that out. It took me a few weeks to get through playing with both characters and experiencing just a little bit of the side content. And if I'm doing the math on that, that's about 15 or 16 hours in 18 or so days. Roughly 45 minutes a day. I didn't play every day. There's some days I played for 2 hours, some days I didn't play at all. But you're looking at about 45 minutes to an hour of gameplay a day. So somehow I beat Dragon Quest XI last winter, which was an 100-hour game.
Oh my
I was
God.
absolutely hooked, so I did make it kind of a priority.
I say, oh my gosh, like 100 hours is really long. But for me, it really is like, that gives me anxiety. Like, I know you guys are playing like Elden Ring and like dumping 200 hours and stuff, but I don't know how you guys do it. Salute.
I usually played for 1 to 2 hours a day, and that is what the max I can spend on weekdays. And after I beat it, I felt like such a sense of elation, sadness for having to say goodbye to those characters, and also just total burnout. Like, I haven't really been able to get into an RPG in the same way since. Like, I've played a few, but haven't really had that same experience. It definitely made me feel a little bit guilty. And, you know, I had this experience playing Persona 5 as well, also another 100-hour game. I don't play those kinds of long games that often, but in the last few years, I've definitely found myself asking, like, hey, is this the last one I'm going to get to play? Like, is this the last, like, super long RPG I'm ever going to be able to play in my entire life? Thought it might have been with Persona 5. Beat Dragon Quest XI. Maybe that is. I feel like probably at some point in my life, I'm going to crank another one out there. But it's definitely becoming something that's way, way less common. And not even 100 hours. Also, like if it's like 60, 70 hours, same deal. Like that's going to be super hard for me to get through. So you definitely need to manage your expectations. And this is where the kind of gamer you are really matters. I'm the kind of person who plays the game mostly for the main story and the experience. If it's a game I really enjoy, I'll do the side contents. Not usually to completion, just kind of what I enjoy or that something that nets a really good reward. When I really like a game, I'll do everything, but that is pretty much never nowadays. It's not that I don't like the games, it's just, like I said, the time limits. However, the more fastidious you are about playing games, probably the less you'll finish, but also the more you might enjoy them. Like, I'm thinking about my friend that just bought Elden Ring. He is definitely someone who grew up a gamer, but his professional career is advancing pretty fast, and he definitely has less time. So he told me, he's like, yeah, I'm definitely getting Elden Ring, can't wait to play it, gonna play the crap out of it, but probably not really playing anything else in 2022. And after I beat it, probably not jumping to anything for a long time.
In
I
20,
respect that, you know? Like he's playing.
how old is this video? Hold up. Oh, this video 2 years old. Okay, it's still relevant. You know what I mean? I'm still 30. You feel me?
What he really loves, but he has no choice but to focus on other stuff. So for me, realistically, I can finish maybe 2 to 3 RPGs a year. And when I'm talking about RPGs, I'm saying like 30 to 50 hours, not like 100 hours. Like definitely cannot finish 3 100-hour games. And that's also because I need breaks from RPGs as well. It's not the kind of gamer I am. I like playing RPGs.
Yeah, RPGs, when you play an RPG, like you kind of got to cleanse your palate in between, in my opinion. You know, like I know right now I said I'm playing Chrono Trigger and Earthbound, but it's definitely some Ninja Gaiden in there, sprinkled in between, and some, what else am I playing? Pico 8.
But usually when I finish one, I have kind of like little games I'll play. I'll go to a platformer, or I'll go to like a shoot 'em up or something. And that's another thing, is that as I get older, I definitely appreciate shorter games. Like I've really found Metroidvania games to be satisfying, and they give me
Metroidvania.
casual game
I think Metroidvania is probably my favorite genre.
time with a bit more of a hardcore RPG experience. Really like that combination. Doesn't quite match RPGs except for the very best ones, but still really satisfying in its own way and less of a burden to play. I definitely think I can keep playing games, but RPGs are going to be something that are going to be played less and less, I think, as I get older. We'll see. I mean, I don't really know. I'd really like to make this video in like 10 years, be like, oh, how are playing RPGs in your 40s? And I'm probably going to tell you guys, like, hey, I played one RPG in the last 4 years, and it was, you know, Golden Sun, Lost Age on the Game Boy Advance. It's not even a new one. Hopefully not. It'd be really fun to follow up this video in another 10 years. So at the end of the day, how should we feel about this? Well, it's definitely bittersweet. You know, there's definitely a period of time in my life, like if I wasn't playing a good RPG, it didn't really feel like I was living. I still played other genres, always loved platformers, Mega Man, Mario, all that stuff. But it definitely felt at that time period like, you know, RPGs, they were the Big Mac on the menu. They were the reason why you went to pick up your console. Now as I get older, I'm definitely realizing, like, when I have 30 minutes, I'm like, well, 30 minutes isn't really going to get me anywhere in triangle strategy. But it will get me somewhere in a shoot 'em up. I can probably have one really good run. So, all right, guys, that's about it for today. I just thought this would be
All right, that was a dope video. Shout outs to him. I appreciate you guys sticking around and tuning in. Okay. Hey, if you stuck around this long, I appreciate you. Please subscribe. I am on my journey to my first 1,000 subscribers. And if you're watching me on Twitch, you can find me on YouTube at Angel Not Geek Stuff. Yeah, but I appreciate you guys hanging out with me, and hopefully y'all had some fun. All right, God bless to you and your family. Salutations to the nations. Peace.
Angel Not.